Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, your number one stop for all things polling and election analysis in the United States. And today we're going to be looking at the simulations model that I have for the 2024 presidential election. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And so, according to my model, Donald Trump is winning 327 electoral college votes to Harris's 211 electoral college votes. This is me going through my own polling averages, reweighing all of the polling data to an R+1 electorate, the same electorate that Atlas Intel is predicting. And not only that, with Atlas Intel's help and my polling average, including liberal-leaning pollsters, I would have been able to predict a Biden plus 5.1 spread in the national popular vote, which would have been 0.6 percentage points off from the final popular vote of Biden plus 4.5 back in 2020. And what we're going to be looking at is the simulations model for this election, because there's a very telling story here that I think is going to be very interesting for people to look at. Donald Trump right now is in the driver's seat for this presidential election. He is the overwhelmingly clear favorite. Looking at the simulations model, Harris's floor is about 181 electoral college votes. That's basically around her floor. Donald Trump's floor, on the other hand, is 235, which are all of his 2020 states. All of the states that are filled in red are states that he won in the previous presidential election. He was able to narrowly pick some of them off, like North Carolina, Florida. All the other ones were somewhat modest victories. North Carolina was his only really competitive state that he actually won. I expect them to hold on to North Carolina. The mail-in data is not looking good for Democrats. They have essentially collapsed by a net 18-point spread, like a really big, ridiculous spread in the national popular vote. And so that is fairly interesting to see that much of a spread in the aggregate. And now looking at this, Donald Trump, according to my simulation model, is basically guaranteed North Carolina. He's basically going into the election with North Carolina in the bag. Meanwhile, Harris is not even going in, with any additional states. She's basically going in with Joe Biden's safe electoral college votes. And a lot of her state victories in some of those states are not as big as what they were before. I mean, you're talking about a state like Illinois. I only have it as like a 9-point win for Harris, and Biden won the state by 17. And that's because Kamala Harris is doing worse across the board with all voter groups. Like Colorado's only like a 6 to 7 point win for Harris. New Jersey is like around the same margin. New York is almost a 15-point win, but it's a little bit below. It's like a 13-14 point victory for Harris. And you see Donald Trump is winning all the swing states fairly easily, and he's picking off Minnesota and New Hampshire, albeit very narrowly. He's still picking off these states. And Maine is next. If he continues to gain in the national popular vote, Maine is going to be the next one to flip on the list. And Kamala Harris does not have a good amount of strength in the Rust Belt. And so she has a perceived weakness that is a lot higher than what most other Democrat nominees would have had in the Rust Belt. Even compared to Joe Biden, she's performing worse on average than he would have in the Rust Belt. And so that's something really interesting to look at. And based on my simulation model, I mean, Colorado at this point, I'd say more than likely does go to Kamala Harris. I mean, she's winning it the majority of the time. I mean, I don't really see how Colorado could go red this cycle. So I am going to be leaving it in that likely column, as well as Virginia. I mean, right now, it is a competitive state, but in a lot of the aggregates, or at least polling averages, I mean, he is getting over roughly 200. And if you look at kind of the lower end of this, 203 is about where I have him right now, or Harris right now. And so that is not a great look for Kamala Harris, because it's like, okay, if you're looking at a simulations with about 8 counts here, you're looking at something that is really not looking good, because the floor is 185. I mean, that is not great. That's basically all the states that I mentioned and New Hampshire in her column, which I don't even think that would happen. I mean, if she's down that much in the electoral college, I completely doubt that she's even getting close in New Hampshire. She's probably losing it by like a point or two, if that's the case. And at this point, based on all the polling data that we have, especially my odds in some of these states, I mean, you're talking about Georgia, 66% odds in Georgia, 68 in Arizona, 64 in Nevada. I mean, those are states that I would feel pretty confident about going into the election. I mean, there's still a pathway for Harris to win them, but I would definitely not feel very confident about those, in my opinion. As well as Wisconsin or Pennsylvania, I wouldn't feel comfortable about those either. I just wouldn't even feel comfortable about them, period, because it's like you're going into the election having literally, if we were to go to the states, Harris literally has a third of a shot in each of the states to win them. That is not a high probability to win any of those states, and Trump is at 74% chance to win the general election, and so he probably goes into the night with 279, probably takes Michigan with him, albeit very narrowly. That's a different path, but let's ignore all this, right? Literally, if Pennsylvania and Georgia go, like Georgia and Pennsylvania, if they go red, that is his path to 270. He wins the Electoral College with just Pennsylvania and Georgia. It's very fascinating to see that play out. Another pathway he's got from here is a Michigan pathway with a Nevada. He's got that pathway. He could do a Wisconsin or Arizona. He can do he could even do friggin' New Mexico, Nevada, and Arizona, for crying out loud. He could even do Wisconsin, Arizona, or he could do New Mexico and Nevada and get over 270. He could do for crying out loud, he could do a Minnesota and Wisconsin and win. He could do a Michigan with New Mexico and still win the Electoral College. And that doesn't even take into account some of these states up here in the Northeast. I mean, he could technically go out there, get New Hampshire, and go to Michigan and get 270 Electoral College votes. Like, he's got viable paths to the White House that Harris doesn't. Harris has to win New Mexico. He's going to have to win Minnesota and New Hampshire and Maine. And Nebraska second would have to be kind of close. And after Arizona and Nevada probably would be going for Donald Trump, she'd have to end up basically flipping the Rust Belt at that point and winning all three states. And it's about 270 to 268, which is a very narrow pathway. And if you notice, they've been sending Tim Walz to that second Nebraska district. It's because they don't believe that they're ahead as much as they say they are in the public polling. They're just not that ahead. It's just not adding up. The math is not adding up, guys. And so right now, Kamala Harris's path is very limited to the White House, while Donald Trump's is as open as ever. I mean, he's got so many viable paths to basically get to the White House. Even if you put up the entire expanded battleground map, I mean, Colorado, Minnesota, Wisconsin, New Mexico gets into 270. Like, that's a very unlikely scenario. I doubt that would happen, but that gets into 270. Georgia, Virginia, and Nevada gets him to 270 in the Electoral College. Looking at a state like, for example, let's look at Michigan and New Hampshire. From here, you could do Nevada and Wisconsin and get to 270 from there. Like, he has got so many paths to 270 that it's not even funny. Like, it is an astounding revelation. He could even do this. He could even win Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, and Maine and win the Electoral College, or New Hampshire and win the Electoral College outright. So it's pretty crazy that he's got this many paths to the White House. It's pretty insane that he's really got this many paths to get there, while Kamala Harris basically has one viable path. I mean, another path that my simulation model found pretty likely to occur, or at least is somewhat of a plausible scenario, is actually her getting Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Nevada, but still not even getting Wisconsin or Georgia, by the way. So she wouldn't even be getting those. This is a scenario from her simulations in our Electoral College model that seemed to be possible. The 287 map is there, but I think it only happens 2 to 3 times out of the 1,000 simulations. Like, it's not a common reoccurring scenario. It's not like that's the average scenario result, And so Donald Trump, going into this debate, was already starting to pick up steam from that RFK endorsement, and those undecideds really pushed to him at the end of that debate. And plus all the RFK voters, that's why he's ahead in the popular vote by so much right now. To be honest with you, I think that my assessment on my site is pretty much correct. I mean, my polling average has Trump up by 3.8%, and Atlas Intel found them at plus 3.6, and I weighed to their electorate, and I was actually able to make my 2020 average more electorate when I reweighed all the polling data to what they had it in their electorate. So that is very, very fascinating. And so if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And make sure to go ahead and go onto betonline.com. This is a betting site where you can look at the betting political odds. You can see here you have the question for, the different states, where they're going to exactly go, looking at the presidential margin, looking at the House of Representatives, as well as the Senate races on top of the actual chance for either candidate to win in the general election. And so if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button to subscribe if you want more content just like this, and I will see you guys in the next video.